Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're all well and having a really great day so far. I've taken a little break from filming recently, but I'm back with new hair and a review and 5 looks of the new Norvina palette. So if you'd like to see how I put this look together along with 4 others, then grab yourself a drink, subscribe if you haven't already, and keep on watching. So this is the new Norvina Pro Pigment Volume 5 palette in all her glory, and she's absolutely stunning. As soon as I saw the promo pictures of this palette, saw the colour story, I just knew that I had to have it because this is right up my street. The layout is exactly the same as the other Norvina palettes, but this is the first one that I've actually pulled the trigger on and brought. I just felt that the colour story for me and the makeup that I like to wear is a lot more wearable, especially compared to the first 3. There's quite bold shades in there, so I thought that I'd get a lot more use out of this one. The shade range in here appears to be very versatile, and you can get anything from a soft glam to a full insta glam look. I think there's enough depth of colour to be able to create looks for any occasion or any type of year, so fantastic. The palette's available on the Anastasia website for £56 or $60 US. For your money, you're getting 25 shades, and I'll swatch all of them for you now. This is the first row swatched, and these are all of the A shades. You can see that you've got a beautiful off-white matte, which will be great for highlighting the brow bone and inner corner. There's also a couple of shimmer shades and some burgundy mattes. This is all of the B shades swatched, and there are 2 beautiful shimmers on either end and 3 gorgeous mattes in the middle. This is the 3rd row swatch, so all of the C shades, and I think this one has some of my favourite shades in the palette. I love these 2 metallics here, they're absolutely gorgeous, and this is a beautiful pinky peach with a gorgeous gold reflect. But again, matte shades are gorgeous, shimmer shades are gorgeous, really, really beautiful colours. This is row 4, so all of the D shades. There's a beautiful metallic bronze here, a pressed glitter with some beautiful reflex in, a nice smoky dark metallic which will be great for deepening up some of the looks, and 2 matte purples. Now these have swatched quite patchy on my hands, but they definitely do not look patchy when they're on the eye. They're very pigmented and really good consistency, so I'm not sure if it's just how I've swatched them, but as I say, no issue on the eye at all. Last row, which is row E, and again some really beautiful shades. This metallic purple I think is really special and one of my favourite shades in the whole palette. I've also really enjoyed using this rose pink matte. I've used it in a couple of looks today and it looks really beautiful on the eye. So ABH have said that a few of these shades are not suitable for use around the immediate eye area, and I'll insert a clip now to show you which ones they are. Personally, I haven't changed the way I've used any of these shadows because of this information. Sometimes they have to say that it's not suitable for around the immediate eye area if it leaves staining on the skin. For me, I didn't encounter any problems or have any irritation, but obviously do your own research to decide what's best for you. So now we know a little bit more about the palette, let's get into the 5 looks. So I'm starting with the shade A4, and I'm blending this through the crease using this Morphe M456 brush. And this shade does look quite neutral in the pan, but actually when I'm applying it to the eye it's pulling a lot more purple than I was expecting. And taking that same shade under the eye using this Charlotte Tilbury eye smudger brush. I'm then taking the shade E2 and I'm applying that to the outer corner, and I'm blending that up into the first shade that I put down. And that's a really beautiful shade. I think it's more of a pinky purple than some of the other shades in the palette. And I'm also going to blend that down onto the lower lash line, just in the outer third. I'm now applying the shade E5, which is this gorgeous rich burgundy colour, and I'm applying that using a Morphe 506 brush right into the outer corner, and I'm just going back in with my original blending brush just to blend that into the other shadows. The shade that I'm applying to my lid now is C2, and that is a gorgeous silver, really, really shiny on the lid, very reflective. And I'm also going to apply it into the inner corner using a smudger brush and down into the lower lash line. And I'm just blending that into the other shadows using the original blending brush, just so it's got a soft transition from the metallic shade into the mattes. And I'm doing the same on the lower lash line as well. So this is the finished look for look number 1, and I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. I could definitely see myself wearing this in the future. I love how pigmented the shadows are, and they blend together like an absolute dream. I didn't really have to work too hard to achieve that. But this silver especially has given a real pop to the look, and I think that it looks really bright and glittery on the lid. Moving on to look number 2, and I'm taking the shade E2 into the crease using this Morphe M433 brush. And I'm running that same shade down underneath the eye using a smudger brush. I'm then taking the shade C5 into the outer corner with this smaller brush, and I'm also blending that down into the outer corner of the lower lash line. And then back in with the first blending brush to blend that out into the other shadow. And I'm going to add a bit more of the C2 shade over the top of that, just to bring back some of the pinky purple, but I still want the depth of the darker colour underneath. I'm then taking the shade C4 onto the lid. I'm just applying that using my finger. I'm just going to blend that corner a bit more. So using a smudger brush, I'm just going to use that to neaten up the application on the lid, and I'm also going to apply it to the inner corner and the lower lash line. I'm then dipping into the shade A2, and I'm also applying that to the inner corner. I've then gone back into the shade C4, and I'm just pressing that over the top to build up that pigment a bit more. I'll be right back with liner, mascara and lashes, and then we'll take a look at the finished look. And this is the finished eye look for look number 2, and again I do really like it. I'm especially excited to use the rest of the palette now, seeing how these shadows have performed, but I love that C4 shade. I think that the gold reflect is giving a beautiful contrast and really adding a lot of interest to the look, but yeah, really impressed so far. Starting with the shade B3 on a Morphe M456, I'm just taking that colour through the crease and blending it out. And I'm also building that colour up into the inner corner. Also taking that same shade down onto the lower lash line. And blending it out with a fluffier brush just to soften that edge. Next I'm taking the shade A3 and I'm just applying that to the centre of my lid using my finger. That is an absolutely gorgeous colour. Really reflective, very pretty. And I'm also running that same shade just into the centre of the lower lash line. To darken up the outer and inner corner, I'm using the shade C3, and this is just going to give the eye a little bit more dimension, and again mirroring that on the lower lash line. Back in with my original brush just to blend that darker shade into the lilac that we first put down. And I'm going back in with the lid shade just because I want to build up that pigment a bit more, and I'm also going to layer the shade B1 on top of the lilac, the shimmery lilac colour, just to add a bit more light to the eye look. And this is look number 3 with liner and lashes now applied. Again, really like how this look turned out. I like that there's a nice mix of warm and cool tones in the palette, but I do think that this B1 shade really lifted the whole look and took it to another level. For look number 4, I'm starting with the shade A4 and I'm just blending that into the crease. So even though some of these shadows do look quite neutral in the pan, they still have a purple undertone to them, which is really pretty, a bit different to what you might have in your existing collection already. And again, just really beautiful shadows and very easy to blend. Taking that same shadow underneath the eye onto the lower lash line, and I'm just going to blend that out a bit more with this fluffier brush that we first used, which is a Morphe M456 brush. I'm then going into the shade A5 and I'm placing that into the outer corner of the eye. I'm then taking a clean blending brush and I'm just going to blend that into the first transition shade. Then placing the colour D1 onto the centre of the lid, and this is a really beautiful rich coppery colour. Then picking up the shade B5, I'm also going to apply that using my finger, and I'm applying that to the outer third of my eyelid and just blending that gently into that copper shade. For the inner corner, I'm picking up the shade A2, and this is just a very pretty soft gold. And I must say, all of the shades do blend together really, really well. To darken this outer corner a bit more, I'm picking up the shade C5 and I'm just taking it right into the outer corner and smudging it into the lower lash line and blending it out using a clean blending brush. And this is look number 4 with liner and lashes, and I think that it's a really interesting look but still very wearable. If you're not quite brave enough to go for the really bright shades, you can still get fairly neutral looks, and that's why I think this palette is so versatile. And moving on to the 5th and final look, I've already put it together on my one eye, and this is the look that we're going to be working towards. So I'm starting with the shade B2 and I'm just applying that to my crease using this fluffy brush from Spectrum. And I'm actually bringing this shadow up slightly higher, just to give the illusion of my eye being a bit more open because I do have hooded eyes. And I'm just giving a wash of colour, blending that out so we don't have any harsh edges. And I'm keeping the pigment darker in the crease and then blending it out a bit higher. Also taking that same shade down onto the lower lash line and smudging it across. This is just a Charlotte Tilbury eye smudger brush that I'm using. With a clean brush, I'm just softening that edge there because I want to keep the eye shape similar on both sides. So the other eye has more of a rounded edge. I'm then taking the shade C3 into the outer corner and also across about a third of the lash line. And I'm just using this brush to place the colour and then we'll blend it out with the original fluffy brush. So back in with the first brush just to blend that into the transition shade. And I'm also going to pull that across so it blends towards the inner corner of the eye. And if you feel you need to go back in and build the colour up, you can absolutely do so. It's better to build up slowly than to try and go in with too much and you know, take some off. And I'm also going to run that shade along probably half of the lower lash line using a pencil brush, and then just smudge that out. I'm then taking the shade C1 and I'm just applying that to the lid using my finger. This reminds me quite a lot of the shade Nebula in the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. It's a really pretty shade. And I'm taking some of that same shade onto a brush just to neaten up the front part here. And I love how reflective this shadow is. It's really, really pretty. And you can actually press that into the darker shade just to blend it in softly. And taking a small amount, I'm going to run that into the lower lash line, just from the inner corner to the centre. To add a bit more sparkle, I'm using the shade D2 and I'm just tapping that on top of the lid shade. To finish off the look, I'm going to apply liner, mascara and lashes, which I'm going to do off camera, and then I'll be right back. And this is the finished look number 5. It's definitely pushed me outside of my comfort zone. It's a lot bolder and brighter to what I would normally wear on a day-to-day basis. But I do like the colours. I think that all of the shadows work really well together. They're easy to blend. And I think that this is something that might look really lovely as a prom makeup. But I would definitely be excited to explore and use this palette a bit more. So guys, those are my 5 looks using this Norvina Pro Pigment 5 palette. I think that looks 1, 3 and 5 were my favourites, but do let me know which one you like the best in the comments below, because I always like to know your thoughts and opinions on things. In terms of the palette overall, I love it. I love the colour story, I love how the shades translate onto the eye, and I love how easily the shadows blend together. I think you could pretty much pick any combination of eyeshadows from this palette and make a really beautiful look. It's an absolutely gorgeous palette. When I look at the colour story, I feel really inspired to create different looks, maybe try something different, push myself out of my comfort zone a bit more, and that's exactly what I want out of a palette. I think that ABH have really just knocked it out of the park with this one. Now, being realistic, if you do not like purple eyeshadow, then this is not the palette for you. But if you're like me and really enjoy these types of tones, then I wouldn't hesitate in recommending it to you. The quality is absolutely there. I went into this with very high expectations and it just did not disappoint. That's everything for today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you like these 5 look 1 palette videos, please thumbs up the video to let me know, and I will absolutely make more for you because I really enjoy filming this type of content. If you'd like to see more videos from me, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because I would love to have you back. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you on my next one. Enjoy the rest of your day.